In the beginning of the year, I wrote a list of goals. The number one goal was to move to Italy. Agostina had already been collecting paperwork for about 6 months to go through the process of recognition of Italian citizenship through descent in Italy. We knew a guy already who was going to help us through the process, so it seemed like everything was going in the right direction. Italy is part of the Schengen region. Within this region, you can stay for 90 days out of every 180 days. Our problem was that it could take 8 months or more to do the process. Agostina could stay, but I would have to leave for 3 months at a time, or stay for a month, leave for a month, stay for a month. And it could be exhausting, expensive, and we didn't want to be separated for that long. I started to research different options for how I might be able to stay. Digital nomad visas, for example, but Italy didn't offer one. I started researching student visas and considered doing my master's when I came across something else. And that it might be possible to get a visa to study the Italian language. I went back and checked my list of long-term goals. There it was. It said speak Spanish, Italian, and French fluently. This is how I applied for the visa. First of all, my name is Ian. I make videos on long-term world travel. We've been here for almost 3 months now. We've explored places like the Cinque Terre, Lake Como, and Milan. And I'm looking forward to sharing a lot more on those adventures going forward. Consider subscribing and hit the bell icon to be notified when things like that come out in the future. This was my experience, yours might be a little different. Take what you can from this and double and triple check everything. I've linked everything I used for my process in the description. First of all, I am from the US in the Philadelphia region. There are a lot of consulates. There's the Philadelphia, New York, LA, San Francisco, Chicago. They each have their own requirements for the visa. Figure out which consulate you're working with. Make sure that you get all the materials from that particular consulate. Here's an example of the Philadelphia region. Second, you must have some knowledge of the Italian language before you apply. The consulate guidelines say, and this is paraphrased, if you are a student studying Italian abroad and want to improve your knowledge, it is possible for you if you are not a beginner. A requirement for the study visa is to attend a higher level full-time course, at least 20 hours per week. I believe it's possible to take an exam, the CLIQ exam. I didn't do that. I took an online intensive course, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for 6 weeks. And I got an A1 level certificate and a letter from the school saying that I would start at an A2 level in Italy. Some consulates require a higher level. The Philadelphia consulate didn't specify. It was a gamble, but it worked out for me. I studied with School of Leonardo da Vinci in Milan. They were great. I definitely recommend them. I was lucky to ask about a beginner course a few days before one started. Make sure you do it enough time in advance in case they aren't starting a beginner course for another month and you have to wait. If I had to wait another couple weeks, I wouldn't have got the visa in time. Some consulates want you to go for an interview. This was not my case. The Philadelphia consulate has walk-in hours for the public. You can also mail yours if you're far away and you don't want to drive in there. That's an option. All right, assembling the application. I have included a detailed list in the description as well as a link to a one-page checklist of the standard requirements to study abroad. I'm going to go through them quickly and I'll mention underneath each one what I had to do specifically to complete my application. Number 1, the National Visa Application Form, duly filled out with place, date, and student signature, notarized by a notary public. I printed out everything and got it notarized at the UPS store. You can do it all in one place, super convenient. Each consulate has its own version of the visa application. You'll see on the top, it'll say Philadelphia, New York. Make sure you have the most recent one and the one for your consulate. The University of Scranton had a really good sample application on their website that showed how to fill everything out exactly. I'll link that below as well. Number 2, a postal money order. Check the current fee on the website, paid to the Consulate General of Italy. The fee isn't for the student visa, this is for the National D visa. Philadelphia Consulate sent an automated email with all of the student visa application requirements. The price changes and sometimes at the last minute. It changed just days before I submitted my application. Double check yours before you go. Number 3, 1 photograph, passport format, 2x2, full face front view. Print your full name on the back of the photo, glued onto the application, no staples. When I was getting my international driver's license for a Mexico trip a few months earlier, I had them give me an extra 2 copies of the photo. Check with your local library, and I believe they can also do passport size photographs for you. Number 4, passport valid at least 3 months beyond the return date to the US. If your country allows 90 days of stay visa-free in the Schengen area, then you could stay after your course ends as a tourist. As you can tell, it's a new day. I had to go to class, picking up where we left off. Number 5 and 6. A photocopy of your driver's license and your passport, full front page, preferably on one page, so you'll put your passport and your driver's license underneath it, preferably in color as well, but they also take black and white. Number 7, if you're not a US citizen, one photocopy of your permanent residence card or other US immigration documentation. Number 8, you'll need to supply proof of individual financial means, including a notarized affidavit if you have somebody who is going to sign to say that they are going to cover you, such as a parent or guardian. For proof of funds, I provided signed letters from my banks showing my available cash and credit amounts. The guideline, I believe, is about $35 per day while you're there. Hey Siri, what's 35 times 30?
35 times 30 is $1,050.
There you go. You heard it. So that's $1,050 per month. When I spoke with the lady at the consulate, she told me that this was in addition to the housing costs. I doubled it to be safe. Say you're planning on spending $1,000 a month on your housing for 8 months. That meant that for me, for 8 months, I needed $16,000 around there, not counting course fees, not counting flights, not counting your initial stay. You need to have all those things paid for before you apply. Number 9. Letter of good standing from a U.S. academic institution or proof of enrollment. That's all it says. It's not very specific. I supplied a printout of my digital diploma from Temple University. I have a bachelor's degree in fine arts. I also included a copy of my official transcripts in case that wasn't going to be enough for them. And because I had studied German before, it shows that I have a past interest in language learning. Number 10 is your acceptance letter from your school in Italy. This has to be written in the Italian language and you need 2 original copies. This is where things can get a little scary because you have to pay for your course in full before you get the acceptance letter. This also has to be a program of 20 hours per week. I'm not gonna lie, it's intense. I enjoy learning languages, so for me this is awesome, but it's not for everyone. Italian grammar is tough, and we drill grammar for 4 hours a day, every day. If that's not your thing, then maybe the language learning visa isn't the right thing for you. For me, the course cost was around $6,750 for all 8 months. There are cheaper options, but this one included cultural components, as well as the preparation and fees for 2 exams. Later down the road, if I want to apply for Italian citizenship through marriage, because I'm not automatically given it after my wife gets it, I will have to demonstrate that I have a B1 level of knowledge in the language. You do this by taking an exam. You can just do the standard language learning course, and you can just add on lessons as much as you want for up to a year. Number 11, you'll need health insurance. I got mine through the school. Made it easy for me. It was about $600, I believe, for 8 months. You can also sign an affidavit saying that you'll get the health insurance while you're in Italy. I wasn't sure how to do that process, and I was a bit lazy, and I didn't want to have to delay handing in my application any further to try to figure that out. So I just paid for the insurance when I paid for the course, and everything was sent to me in a packet from the school altogether. Number 12 is your proof of lodging. For me, an Airbnb worked fine. This is for an initial period. I did 1 month. There wasn't anything that I could find that said that it had to be for any specific period. While you're in Italy, you need the address to apply for your permission to stay, permesso di soggiorno. I think that you need to declare that you're in the country within 8 days of arrival. You need a physical address there to be able to do that. Number 13 is your flight itinerary, including your return flight. I got mine fully refundable, so if I want to change the date that I come back, I have the flexibility to be able to do that. I know it's tough when you're planning ahead 8 months to see where you're going to go or what you're going to do at that point, but it's just something that you have to do for the application. Number 14 is a mailing disclaimer. So this is if you're going to have your application mailed back to you, you need to sign a paper that says that the consulate can't be held responsible for loss of any paperwork or things like that. I didn't need this because I was planning on coming to pick it up in person. Number 15 is the prepaid envelope. Again, this is something that I didn't need, but if you're planning on having your passport sent back to you, you need to provide an envelope prepaid with you as both the sender and recipient. I also included a cover letter. The lady at the consulate that I spoke to told me to put a cover letter on my application to explain the reasons why I wanted to go study the Italian language in Italy. This isn't necessary, but it couldn't hurt. I kept it simple but clear. I explained my motivation to study Italian and my passion for the culture and history there. It's important to connect your past with why you want to study there. I shared how my past visits to Italy had influenced me to study art. I wrote about my love for learning languages and how I had already taught myself Spanish. I explained my work as a seasonal freelancer and how I often took time off in the off seasons to travel and acquire new skills. Of course, one of the other things that you want to supply is the proof of your level of Italian language. And the school sent me a packet in the mail with my proof of insurance, their credentials, business registration information, a stamped letter of motivation to study that I had sent to them as part of the requirement to enroll, my receipt of payment, and my acceptance letter. Chapter 4, submitting all of your paperwork. I got everything together, went to the embassy, got in line with some other slightly younger students who I think were probably doing the standard university study abroad program. We lined up at a glass window where a woman was standing behind the counter. When it was my turn, I stepped up. I gave her all the papers and told her what I was applying for. She took all the papers out. She saw the checklist on the front. I had checked all the boxes down the list, and she said, "The independent language study visa has different requirements than the normal study abroad checklist. These are just all the basic requirements." I said, I know, I have everything there. She looked at the first bank statement, she circled it, she was like, "This isn't much." I said, "I have several accounts. Keep looking." She flipped through the paper, she was like, okay. Then she asked me if I spoke Italian because that's one of the requirements, and I said, un po, a little bit. She was like, a little bit. Un po. So she started firing off questions at me in Italian, asking me what I do for work and what my wife does for work. Luckily, I paid attention in the 6-week-long intensive course that I did online, so I was able to understand everything that she was asking me, and I was able to respond in Italian. But with the pressure on, it makes it kind of difficult to speak in a foreign language. Finally, when she saw that I had graduated from Temple, she relaxed a little bit and asked me what I studied. I told her I studied painting. She was interested in this. She saw that I had paid for the program and the flights and the initial stay and the insurance. She saw that it was a specific course that I had chosen to take. And by the end, she smiled and she said, molto bene, molto bene. Very good, very good. At the end, she did apologize. She said, "I'm sorry, but we just have to ask these questions. You know, it's my job." I completely understand. And I feel like putting some pressure on you and getting you a little, nervous is kind of part of the almost interrogation process of making sure that you're telling the truth and that you're being genuine. The visa is not guaranteed. They could turn it down for any reason. It's good to make a good impression if you can, which is also one of the reasons I supplied a cover letter. She told me my application should be processed in about 6 weeks. I believe I handed this in on July 10th, so 6 weeks was going to go till right at the end of August, and our flight was on September 2nd, so things were already getting cut pretty close. They told me to email them to see when it was going to be finished. The email only sent back automated messages, so eventually they did end up calling me. It was done a little earlier, about 4.5 weeks. I drove in there, walked out with my passport. They lost it at first, but they found it, luckily. Walked out with my passport with a nice green Italian visa sticker in it. This was a big win for us because didn't have to miss out on any money, didn't have to change flights, I didn't have to cancel anything. At this point, most things were not even cancelable. It was a big load of stress off. When you get to Italy, the process isn't over yet. You'll have to apply for the permission to stay, get an appointment for your identity number and everything like that. Your school should help you through the process when you get there. They go through these things often, so they know all the processes that you have to do. Whether you're doing it specifically to learn Italian or whether you're doing it to keep from being separated from someone that you love, or if you just want to stay in Italy because it's awesome. All are completely valid, and it can be a life-changing thing to be able to come and stay in a country for long periods of time, learn the language, learn the culture. I think it's one of the best things that you can do with your time. It's not quite as hard as it may seem. I think that the real problem of applying for this type of visa is the lack of information out there. So I made this video to try to help inform people who might be interested in doing this type of thing. I hope that this helps you with your journey. If you know anybody else who might be interested in doing something like this, then share this video with them so this can help them out too. And let me know how your process is going or what you've experienced in your process before. These conversations that we can have down there can help a lot of other people as well. And I guess that's it for me. So I will see you in the next one. Peace.